This video is about capitalization. It corresponds to section 7.12.5 of the Applied Analog Electronics textbook. Now, in recent years, I've noticed that students have gotten into the habit of capitalizing words somewhat randomly, and that's not standard English. In written English, there are three basic uses for capitalization. The beginning of a sentence, proper names, and certain acronyms. And those are the only real uses for capitalization. It's not used for emphasis. If you need to emphasize something, use bold or italics, but don't use all caps. Beginnings of sentences are one of the ones that also cause a lot of students problems, because every once in a while somebody wants to start a sentence with a math formula, a variable, a number, and those things are not capitalizable symbols. So basic rule of thumb is never start a sentence with an uncapitalizable symbol. If you need to start with a formula, start with words like the formula and then give the formula so that you can capitalize the word the. Names of things. Let's look at a couple examples here, because this causes a lot of students confusion. One thing is that when you've got the names of figures that you're referring to, like you have figure 3, which incidentally in LaTeX you should be doing with a figref command, which expands to figure and a reference to the label, that is the label for this figure, so that you should never be typing the words figure 3 yourself. In fact, if you use the figref command that I provided in the overleaf example, then your figure names will be capitalized correctly without you having to do anything. But if for some reason you need to refer to a figure that's outside yours, like a figure in something you're citing, the correct thing to do is to capitalize the word, because it's a name. Figure 3 is the name of a figure, and so as a proper noun it should be capitalized. Another thing that's often, if you're doing Ohm's law, usually the word law is not capitalized. You can in fact use Google Ngrams to check how frequent capitalization is of common words like this or common phrases like this, and you'll find that Ohm's law is maybe 3 or 4 times as frequently done with lowercase law as with uppercase law. Technically, either one is correct. It's a question of what the name is here. Is it just the name of Ohm, or is it the name of the entire law is Ohm's law? Because it's a possessive in here, one can argue that law is a generic word and just Ohm needs to be capitalized, and in fact that is the more common usage. But as long as you're consistent on that, I'm not going to be concerned about whether you do one letter or both letters here being capitalized. Okay, there's a number of things that we use that are always capitalized, like we're talking about AC voltage, or an analog to digital converter, or digital to analog converter, or data acquisition system, a DAC. Along with AC, there's also DC, EKG, or if you prefer ECG for the electrocardiogram. Then there's some weird capitalization like lowercase n capital FET, or lowercase c capital MOS. And we have names of things that are products, or like Teradac, which is the free data acquisition system you're using, or LaTeX, which properly has got a really weird capitalization with all caps, but the A and the E done in kind of weird positions. Lego is done in all caps, even though it's not an acronym, and it should have a little registered trademark symbol, at least the first time you use it. So there's words which have weird capitalization. A lot of them are things like commercial products. In that case, you should use the same capitalization that the manufacturer uses. One other word that has a very strange capitalization, even if it's not at the beginning of a word, beginning of a sentence, H-bridge has a capital H, and that's because the name comes from being a pictorial representation of the shape of the circuit looking like a capital H. And so with a lowercase h, it no longer looks correct. And so H-bridge is kind of a weird special case. It always gets capitalized. All right. The capitalization of units is very important because we have things like lowercase s for seconds and capital S for Siemens. Don't mix them up. Lowercase k for kilo, capital K for Kelvin. Don't mix them up. And lowercase m for milli, capital M for mega. I mean, that's a difference of 10 to the ninth. So getting the wrong one is really bad. All right. That's probably about all you really need to know about capitals. They're used for beginnings of sentences, so you always have to start a sentence with something that's capitalizable. They're used for proper names, and that includes the names of figures and tables, and sections and chapters. Basically anything that's properly used as a name, even if it consists of a word plus number, is capitalized. And gets used for some abbreviations. And you have to be careful, particularly with unit abbreviations. The capitalization is an important part of the meaning of the symbol, and getting it wrong totally changes what you're trying to say.